Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in our top left-hand side EternityYoshP, our red Protoss, and his opponent in the bottom right is Qntc JaeLee, our blue Terran. Both players are in Masters, High Masters, like top 10, top 15, and we are on Star Station, which got a recent change to the map pool. It's now cross-spawn only. And that's really the only thing remarkable about that is it kind of looks like the Space Corps from Portal 2, which is something that I really enjoy. And it's a nice map. It's a nice map. It kind of splits itself in half just because of the two Xel'Naga watchtowers and the fact that you're always cross-spawn now. Whenever it was bottom on bottom or top on top, you really had a lot of air battles because of just being so close by air and this huge empty space out here that you could really misuse. But now with cross-spawn, you can have some clever placements of your Overlord or your Observer and kind of scout that forthcoming. You know, you see those medevacs coming in, and it kind of allows you to answer back to that a little bit easier, give you some more reaction time, and makes the map just a little bit larger, kind of favoring more macro style games. And hopefully that's what we're going to be seeing out of both of these players. Neither have decided to throw down anything spectacularly weird. We have the barracks, we've got the gateway, and whenever it's cross spawn only, you know where your opponent's going to be spawning. So since we didn't see a probe leaving super early to throw down a pylon that's a proxy, or two SCVs leaving to throw down their two barracks proxy, then yeah, I'm happy that this game's going to last at least 10 minutes, probably longer, as I have saw how big the replay file was. I know it's a little bit longer. I'm going to cue you in on that secret. The refinery going down, so probably going to be a Reaper opening coming out of JaeLee. Strictly speaking, that's the most popular one because of the scouting potential, not really because of the harassment. Reapers really don't do as much damage as they used to, but man, they can scout like no one else's business, and it's worth so much just because you get that gas up, you're allowed to tech off of it. You really get to see exactly what's going on inside Yosh's base, and what's going on inside Yosh's base. He's got single gateway, single cybernetics core coming up, not positioning them over by the ramp, really defensively positioning, making it so it's like a really tight wall off, making it so that maybe those Hellbats are going to have a difficult time if they're not dropped within the mineral line. Maybe those probes will be able to slip through this small gap and the Hellbat won't. Or maybe that's sort of clever building placement, clever SimCity. I really like that play. A Marine coming out from JaeLee just before that Reaper, but that Reaper's also queued up to kill the probe. Unfortunately, that probe has been supply blocked inside the main base for JaeLee, so it's going to go down only a matter of time. He really wants to keep it alive to see what happens to that next geyser. We can see that no money has been saved up at all for JaeLee, so it's not like he's waiting to throw down an add-on or anything like that. So once that probe is done, but we do see a command center going down on the low ground, and that's exactly what he was spending that money on. And because that probe was blocked inside, he didn't see anything at all having to do with that. No command center on the high ground. It could be that Yosh is going to expect that there was a command center being produced there, and as he's getting his own nexus on the low ground, it's definitely possible. But it's more likely that this was the build order progression that he was going to go on anyway. He's grabbing that second gas now. He's got that first stalker coming out. Where did he even produce a zealot? Oh, he did not. Wow, super ballsy. Super ballsy, but he's not going to have a problem with this single Reaper. Like I said, it's difficult to do any real damage with that to Protoss, strictly speaking, because of that mothership core. Nice patrolling here from Yosh, just because he knows that Reaper's coming out. That Reaper's the one that killed the probe back at home. He's going to know that that harassment's coming out, and by not producing the zealot, he got that stalker out just a couple of seconds earlier, making it so he had a little bit of extra money. Wow, saving up quite a lot of money. What is he going to throw down back at home? Has he added anything yet? Okay, a robotics facility. Absolutely fantastic. Factory coming out from JaeLee. He also has tapped his second gas, so it's beginning to look like some sort of mech opening, especially with the armory coming out. I would love to see a starport added on in the coming seconds, just so we can get a medevac out. Hellbat drops are incredibly powerful, especially whenever your opponent goes for a super early nexus, making it so that they have double the mineral lines to defend. It's super hard to defend even just one against those speedy medevacs with those Hellbats, but with two, it's nigh impossible not to take any damage at all. Forge being thrown down, so it could be that we're going to be seeing some photon cannons helpful in defending against that drop, or it could be just that he wants to get some extra upgrades pretty early, but only one Forge, probably not for the upgrades. Regardless, second factory being thrown down. Hellbat production is in full swing, but a second factory means not a starport, and also he hasn't tapped his gas down in the natural area, so maybe he's not going to be going for that drop. Maybe he's going to be just spinning pure minerals later on. The Reaper once again poking in. I really like this positioning of the robotics facility over by the ramp, because that's an area that the Reaper probably wouldn't want to run by, just because he's going to know that, oh, really nice time bomb right there, slowing down the Reaper just so that the Stalker can get the last shot off right whenever he was jumping up over the hill. That's a really great play. But the robotics facility, if this was like on the low ground or even right here, the Reaper's probably not going to be using the ramp to get up. Maybe he'll be jumping up here, but more likely he'll be making his entrance here. And if he did make his entrance there, hopefully the Mothership Core and the Stalker could cut him down before he actually got that scout off. So Forge expansion is going up, getting that armor upgrade. We also got the robotics bay on the production tab. And you know what? That might not just be for Colossus. It could be for a defensive Colossus. It could be for a Warp Prism. He does have 3 gateways out. It would be nice to see some sort of harassment. Maybe he's preparing for the change to the Warp Prism speed. That's going to be pretty cool. Some workers being transferred down, an observer making his way in. Yosh is going to be seeing pretty much everything that's going on in JaeLee's base. And with the absence of a starport in any form, this is looking more and more like a timing attack. That armory has upgraded the level 1. It's going to be finishing in a relatively short amount of time. I don't think he's going to be pushing out with just this unit composition. Though, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I think he might be waiting for +2 weapons, or maybe just +1/+1. Or maybe he is going to be adding on a starport later. Probably not going to lie. I like how the barracks was using the reactor until he got that other factory up, and now it's going to be moving over here, probably going to be adding on another add-on. It's weird to see Marines without any sort of add-on at all, especially with 2 Stargates going down for Yosh back at home. He's going to be relying on these Marines pretty much exclusively for anti-air potential, and that is just really, really weak. Marines without combat shield, without stem, are not going to be able to do anything against Void Rays, which are coming out, especially with their +1 air already being researched by that cybernetics core. This is going to be absolutely brutal. But you know, Yosh really doesn't have a lot of things being produced. The robotics facility is standing idle. He canceled the robotics bay. That's weird. Okay, so he canceled it, went to this. Was there a scan? It could be there was a scan. There was not a scan. I don't know. You can see that he's got a lot of photon cannons positioned very defensively to defend his mineral line. He probably suspected, as I did, that he was going to be up against Hellbat drops, especially scouting in, seeing all those factories, but there's not a single starport. Okay, well, fine, there is a starport, but it's not doing anything right now. It's probably just going to be producing a handful of Vikings, actually, to help out with this composition's anti-air. But if he decides to push out with this +2 finishing in a couple seconds, nice scan right there, killing the observer, right? Didn't he kill the observer? I didn't see the explosion, but I can only assume because it was hanging around with him. No, it was left behind. Nice. Good play by both players. I like it how he moved out to the middle of the map, because sometimes you'll have an observer position there and not directly over the armor. But no, hold that thought. Pushing in, there goes the planetary nexus down, shelling down a handful of those Hellbats, seeing the amount of Void Rays that are out on the field right now. JaeLee has no choice but to pull back. With these unupgraded Marines, he really doesn't have the anti-air necessary to take them down, but with the Planetary Nexus expended on the 3rd, he has a clear and open pathway to push in to the natural. Just a handful of Stalkers there. The Void Rays moving in from the south side. The Marines turn around, begin to shell them out, but with another Void Ray on the production tab, another one swinging in from the north. I think there's enough Void Rays out on the field right now to clean up completely the anti-air, and with that, all the siege tanks have gone down. The Nexus doesn't even take hull damage. A second planetary Nexus on that. Wow, so good with the Mothership Core, keeping that energy down. The Vikings just arriving a second too late. Another 2 on the production tab, but it's going to take so long for them to arrive to actually help out this battle. Another siege tank goes down, and it looks like all these Hellbats have to escape, running home, fleeing away from those Void Rays, doing so much extra damage against that. Look at this defensive positioning of the observers. Really just locking down all the drops is what I was going to say earlier before we got rudely interrupted by something exciting. The photon cannons really locking down any sort of damage that could be done by those Hellbat drops, and then the observers giving them super early warning. I really like that play. It would have just destroyed Quantic if he JaeLee if he had tried to do that drop, but he didn't. He was going for a timing attack, and yeah, the timing attack kind of fell in its face, but it was something that could have been absolutely devastating if there wasn't the number of Void Rays that that Yosh actually had. And man, he's got a nice fleet beginning to form right now. Still only with 2 Stargates, which is kind of weird. I mean, he is only on 2 bases. There's a third. Absolutely fantastic. And throwing down a lot of gateways so that he can actually react if there is another Doom push. But I think JaeLee's going to sit back, relax, kind of lick his wounds. He is producing 3 command centers right now. That is absolutely fantastic. The anti-air is still very much his weak spot, but here we have STEM being researched finally on the tech lab at the 14:30 minute mark. But that's still great because, you know, he's got that infrastructure already set up. He's adding on another barracks, probably going to throw on another reactor on that. He's identified that this is my weak spot. This is what I need so that I can actually deal with the incoming golden armada that can be coming out of Yosh. He needs to get his anti-air up and running, and he needs to get it very, very powerful, because on the ground he totally won that battle. Absolutely fantastic. But you know, once those Void Rays had claimed air superiority, there's really not a lot that JaeLee could do except for retreat. Unfortunately for him, that barracks is just producing 1 Marine at a time, and it looks like this command center has been scouted by a probe in the bottom left-hand side, and with that, Yosh is moving out with all of his Void Rays. Adding on a Thor instead of extra siege tanks is probably a great decision, especially with their explosive payload that can do extra damage to a single target. Really going to be making mincemeat out of those Void Rays. But how will it fare against carriers? Because we do have 3 carriers being produced at a time right now for Yosh. He's already done the graviton catapult, so those interceptors are going to be absolutely devastating, and everyone loves carriers. I mean, there is absolutely nothing to not like about carriers. They're incredible. I can't wait for this next battle. It's going to be great. Even seeing a handful of medevacs being thrown in. Are we going to be seeing drops? Probably not. I mean, even if we did, it would probably get shut down because of all the stuff that we saw back at home. He's now got a huge number of gateways. You can just warp in a huge number of stalkers to deal with any sort of drop pressure, and then as soon as they move out, the medevacs are going to be totally spotted by this observer, which has been pretty tenacious. I mean, he's definitely surviving for a very long time. How many carriers are we up to right now? Just 2? Fine, but we've got another 3 on the production tab. That's going to be absolutely fantastic, and both players are really macroing very well. We have a 4th coming up for Yosh, another one, a hidden one in the top right hand side. The hidden command center in the bottom left was taken down completely by Yosh and was completely unanswered by JaeLee, but that's okay because he's also taken his 4th and 3rd, both in the natural progression of things. Really just huge economies. 21, almost over 2,000 mineral income. Gas could use just a little bit of work, but it's because both players are just now getting theirs saturated and just now getting the workers into those Vespene geysers. Regardless, JaeLee has had enough. He is pretty much completely maxed and is pushing out not nearly enough Vikings to cut down all of those carriers, but with a handful of Thors as well as some Marines thrown into the mix, they're pushing in the Zealots, just trying to keep the Marines at bay so that they can't sprint underneath them, but they get just roasted by all those Hellbats, and the Marines underfoot of those carriers making mincemeat out of them. They go down ridiculously fast. I mean, look at those shields fall. Only 3 carriers remaining, but only a handful of the Marines are left alive also. The Thors eventually getting targeted down, and it looks like the carrier is just so incredibly resilient. I mean, so much health. But the Hellbats, once again, the ground superiority from JaeLee is allowing him to target down that planetary nexus at the 3rd location. Looks like all the probes have managed to transfer away to the top right-hand side, and with more than a handful of carriers remaining alive, I think Yosh is eventually going to clean up these Hellbats. Definitely going to be able to cut them down before they make it to the top right-hand side, if he even knows about that. Does JaeLee know about that expansion? No, he does not. He might suspect it, though. He did see those probes run away, but he might just think that they are a complete retreat. I don't think these 4 carriers are healthy enough to deal with the Thor, and when I'm totally wrong, just cutting down every single one of those Marines, cutting down that Thor, and it's because these upgrades have kind of been spread around. It's 2-2 for the mechanical monstrosities from JaeLee, but then we also have +1/+1 for those Marines. And then on the other side of things, these carriers, if I could just see it, 2-1, a shield upgrade. That's weird. I thought he did get the armor plating. That's really weird. Oh, I got the ground armor plating, but not the air armor plating. I wonder why you get the shield upgrade if you're going for carriers. If anybody knows, I mean, I don't really know how much health the interceptors have. I think it was like 20 on 20 or something like that. But I don't really I don't clearly know what the reasoning of that is. We have the Psionic Storm being researched, as well as a buttload of Templars being warped in. Could it be for feedback? Could it be for Archons? I mean, with that shield upgrade, those Archons are definitely going to be more devastating. Thors no longer have energy, so it's probably not for a feedback on them. More likely it's just to deal with the huge bundles of Marines that JaeLee is utilizing to deal with those interceptors and those carriers. 3 more carriers going to be added into this mix. I absolutely love carriers. 7 carriers total right now, with another 3 on the way for 10 total. This is going to be absolutely devastating. And you know what? Yosh is definitely sitting pretty. I mean, he's got 1 expansion up, completely mining on the top right-hand side. Another one, the 3rd, is almost going to be taken again. His natural is still mining strong, as is his 3rd. This is glorious for him, absolutely glorious, and JaeLee knows it. He can't afford to sit back and relax, but every time he pushes out, he's adding on more and more anti-air, less and less ground forces. This time he only has like a handful of Hellbats, 1 siege tank. Really putting all of his eggs into one basket. Is going to be pushing out, but this is a pure slugging match. We've only had straight-on fights. Here comes a huge storm being thrown down on so many of those Marines. They just melt away, and then it's only Thors left alive, and now the Zealots just having a field day on those Thors. They get absolutely demolished. So many siege tanks or carriers are left to have fun with that siege tank, and now this huge fleet from Eternity is 190 over 125. Oh my goodness, how cost effective is that? Holy crap. And yeah, once those stores were used, the Archons got out and they just absorbed all the focus fire from everything. I guess there was some sort of zealot harass here that I must have missed, because it succeeded in taking down that CC, unless he lifted it off and moved it. Maybe that's what he was doing. No. Getting another orbital command there, which is kind of weird. You expect to see a planetary fortress, especially at this time. But what good is a planetary fortress whenever everything is in the air? I don't know. The Tempest definitely earning their keep, shelling down quite a lot of damage, but really there's nothing for them to focus down except for buildings at this time, because the ground force has just been absolutely demolished. JaeLee trying to tech over into a more bio force so that he can re-macro super quickly, getting out a handful of those medevacs. In fact, doing a medevac drop back at home. But here we see the static defenses that Yosh has invested in early on is really paying big dividends, allowing his probes to get away. At the same time, his carriers just crushing the standing force that JaeLee had back at home. Oh my goodness, there's absolutely nothing that you can stop Yosh right now. Oh man, what could stop Yosh? I mean, some ghost throwing down some EMPs to knock out their shields. I feel like not taking that devastating blow from all of those psionic storms early on, because he really did have an intimidating ground force, had a lot of anti-air there, and could have done a massive amount of damage to Yosh, definitely stunting his carrier fleet. Maybe not taking it out completely, but he definitely could have done more damage with it by surviving those storms. But by coming in with that death ball mentality, he was just blindsided by that AoE, because we hadn't seen any AoE out of Yosh at all. And by teching over to those Templar storms, he knew that he was dealing with more and more Marines. He was dealing more and more with those Thors and less of those Hellbats things and siege tanks that would have been more resilient to that. Really, it was just I feel like JaeLee had the potential to be aggressive early on. He was getting those Hellbats. He didn't elect to do he didn't elect to do drops, and because of that, Yosh was capable of getting up just a banging economy. I mean, look at this. He was expanding like a Zerg. It's shameful. And once he had that massive economy, he could just steamroll his opponent, because Protoss is the best whenever you get up to max upgrades, max techs, and max supply. Like no one else can hold a candle to Protoss because of that. Man, this is brutal. I love carriers. I love people who watch my videos too. So if you have a replay you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Ibigandscary.